Hello, Hojoz here, and welcome back, finally, after 5 months, to Forza Horizon 4, with today an Auto Union Type D for a classic race in B-Class. We have made a track for this on the Gardens cross-country circuit, and I have named it the Gardens Scenic Circuit. And with a length of 24.2 kilometers, the fastest lap I have here with the Auto Union Type D is an 8:27.0. And that's why we'll be doing only 2 laps of the track today. Now, Auto Union, of course, rich history for brands that once merged to create Auto Union after they all four fell into a bit of financial disarray as we get going right now for the first of 2 laps. A lot of wheel spin, of course. This B-Class Auto Union having not much in the way of rear grip. The mid-engine layout not really helping with that apparently. It is also very understeery and oversteery on corner exits. It is quite the hard car to drive. And with the drum brakes, you also can't really get it stopped. Anyway, we're at the start of the lap here, sharp corner, as indicated by the signs. It is a hard car to drive, and you'll notice that by the very long braking distances that I'll be going for during the lap. As we have entered the mountain section of the lap, a bit of oversteer on corner exit, as I mentioned, quite the oversteer, but also understeering car. I mean, it is a car from 1939, made in Germany. Of course, not the best country to make a car in. Well, I guess there was government funding, but it's still Nazi Germany. So yeah, a 1939 car in Forza Horizon 4. Who expected that? Yes, we have got several bits of track here already. Another quite sharp corner with a cliff face on the right side, on the inside of the turn, as is distinctive for this part of the track. Quite the sharp and hard complex to get right here, as we enter a small town, which I have now forgotten the name of. We do seem to have a bit of a lag, which is quite unfortunate. But yeah, a town section. It pretty much resembles the tracks they used to race on back in 1939 European Championship, which were mainly just road tracks, just normal public roads, as this is a very hard hairpin. Like, I have spinned at least once there with the car getting too soon on the throttle. But yeah, it pretty much resembles how the tracks were back in the day, with long stretches of road, long stretches of straight road, with a couple of towns in between. Sometimes not even going through the towns. This again a hard complex, a bit of throttle management for this corner. You want to get out wide, of course, which I don't do. Again, as I said, quite the hard car to drive, so also a bit hard to decide when you're actually going toward the outside of the track, and maybe too much to the outside as I did there, clipping a bit of rock. Quite unfortunate, but well, that is sometimes the way it goes. Across this bit of wall section where we have gone through already in a previous video with the number 18 Verstopper Clio showcase. This bit of track we have also taken. But I'm sure you can already see why I've called this the Gardens Scenic Circuit. It is quite the scenic track with, at the moment here on the left, a nice big lake, and on the right a lot of trees. Yeah, those tracks back in the day, quite the wonderful sight to see, but unfortunately very unsafe, and deaths were all too common back in the day. The drivers not wanting to wear seatbelts because they thought, quite rightly so, that falling out of their cars was better than staying in them, their cars often combusting once they crashed. Quite a difficult section there. I'm sure I could have just cut across the bush there. But of course, I'm not trying to showcase a lot of cuts here, because I want to showcase how I want my tracks to be driven, and I want my tracks to be driven within the track limits. So yeah, I would appreciate that if you do that yourself. Again, quite a hard section, quite a hard turn to make here as I go a bit wide on entry. Of course, you don't want to get too wide, or otherwise you will collide with the bridge. A bit of an uphill section here. Of course, the Auto Union types, having had a rich history in hill climbing with the original Handstuk, it has won some hill climbs in its C-type variant, as far as I know, with double wide tires on the rear. Quite the sight to see that, as we are now once again descending this part of the track containing a lot of 90-degree turns and hairpins, as is quite characteristic for a hill descent. As here you have one of those sharp turns and another one going a bit wide onto the dirt. But whatever, back in the day, a fast lap was all about keeping your car on the track, not making too many mistakes, as I have a bit of an oversteer moment there. Undoubtedly, you have already seen the cars on the left side of the track. They have already completed a section of the track, of course, them being a minute ahead of us. Yet despite that, we do manage to overtake a few. Partly due to mistakes by them, but also partly due to legitimate overtakes, as we once again have one of those hard corners in terms of throttle management, going over a bridge, and a wonderful hill right in front of us as the scenery to look at. And this is the most beautiful part of the track, if you ask me. Just with the hills on the background, and just honestly driving quite a relaxed drive, despite, as I said, the hard car. And the car being so hard to drive only makes it more fun for me. Me having chosen to build it in B class rather than A class, which has been, of course, recommended by Purple Guy 123, because honestly, I don't know, if you ask me. Probably because the car started in B class, and I found it quite fun to drive in one of the Horizon story missions. I believe that took place during the filming Horizon story, where you actually got to drive one of these, and it was very fun to drive. The car, of course, starting in B class, so I didn't really have too much room for upgrades, and I believe I have pretty much only gone for some wider tires and maybe some upgrades in terms of gearbox or clutch. I've built this car quite a while ago, so I don't really remember how I built it. Onto the first water section, or the only water section. I forgot how many water sections there are here. Going on to the final part of the lap. Already 10 minutes into the video, I'm quite surprised that I've managed to fill this video with 10 minutes of content, honestly. Yeah, at the end of the lap, the finish right there. going across it and going for the second lap, which simultaneously was my fastest lap in this car and on this track. It being the aforementioned 8 minutes 27 seconds and 0.064 thousandths in the car. Really fun car to drive. Now, as far as the livery goes, again, back in the day, they didn't really have liveries. The cars came in their national racing colors, that obviously being red, quite a dark red for Italy, a dark green for Britain, and a vibrant blue for France. And Germany, well, Germany had white, but obviously this car is silver, and it probably has to do something with the maximum rate regulations and the Mercedes story that we have probably all heard, as I massively cut the corner there. Of course, the Mercedes guys scraping the white paint off the car to save weight so they could end the race. That being the origin of the silver pijlen. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but it's basically the German translation of the silver arrows. Of course, them having had a lot of success in Formula 1 and of course in GTs as well. But on the other side, also responsible for the horrible 1955 Le Mans accident. The worst accident in racing history. But yeah, going off topic a bit there, I've decided on keeping the car silver as it was delivered to me. However, I changed the numbers out with my own, of course, my 18, number 18, my preferred number. No relation to Lance Stroll, by the way. Not really a fan of him. He has improved, but yeah, not really in relation to him. And besides that, of course, we have the new HojozVideos groundle and the link on the right side of the car, the right side of the back side of the car. Now, I've made this livery in two versions. One with a Dutch flag, which is exclusively for me, although if you want that to be published, I could do that. And one with the German flag, as what makes sense. Now, I elected to go for the modern German flag rather than the Nazi flag, or the Imperial German flag, because, well, that's probably the one with the least offense, and of course the most modern one as well. Besides that, of course, on the side of the cockpit I have stuck my own name with, of course, the L. Hojoz and the Dutch flag. Only one name on this car because, well, quite frankly, it's a one-seater, and besides that, well, it's a race car, and in a race car, I've never seen two guys in the race car since the invention of the rear view mirror, which I believe made its debut at an Indy 500. Yeah, quite the amount of racing history I know off the top of my head, which is obviously quite fun. Having a presenter that knows a bit about the car itself. Yeah, but besides that, it's a very fun car to drive. This pretty much having a rear suspension that is quite primitive in modern terms. I believe it was torsion bar, but it could also just be a solid axle rear end on this car, that not providing for the best handling. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really have much handling back in the day. This car, I believe, being more famous for its straight line speed rather than its cornering. It making it so that the more straight line tracks, such as Monza for example, although I don't know if they actually raced at Monza, that being the tracks where these excelled. Of course, having competition from not only people from the other countries, but from their own country in the form of Mercedes with their W whatever. I don't know the name of that car off the top of my head. But yeah, here on the left, a giant mistake by one of the Napier Railtons, I believe, gains us one position as we run through the debris of the wall it ran through. And there being one other car in front of us, I believe that also being a Napier Railton, having a lot of difficulty with that corner. And us, of course, trying to gain the maximum amount of time we can to overtake the car ahead, as we are on the scenic part, the most scenic part and the final part of the track as we pass the Napier Railton. It apparently not being that good in straight line speed. Very tight corner and ran a bit too far on the inside on that corner. Which is a mistake by me, of course. And quite not the mistake you want to make as a racing driver. Something which I have worked on. Going wide here on entry, very late apex, not very advantageous for a lap time either. But then again, me having run an 8 minute 27, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you could do a sub 820 on this track with this car. The car, don't think the tune is available for download, but the livery, the German livery, most certainly is. Of course, under my own name, Leon Hojoz. And the circuit is too, of course, as we are in the final minute of the video. And then, of course, the final minute of the track. Going over the bridge into one of these corners where you have to slow down a bit for it. And then coming onto the water section as a mere 30 seconds remain in our lap. And that means that for me, it is time to say goodbye to you. It is time to wish you a very nice day. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please share it around with your friends. And if you didn't, a dislike is okay too. And I really appreciate criticism. Anyway, this has been Hojoz. And here is Bureaucratic with the Boys Bob.